Two people, same salary, same rent, same age. One of them, when their car makes a weird noise, feels their stomach drop. The other one thinks, I should get that looked at, and keeps walking. Same noise, same car, basically completely different nervous system. The difference between them isn't income, it's not luck, it's a number, and it's smaller than you think. Everyone's obsessed with the wrong milestones. Millionaire by 30, 6 figures or bust. Financial influencers sell the summit and skip the base camp. But there's a much smaller number that does something the big ones don't. It changes how your brain processes risk, not your bank balance, your actual nervous system. Somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 in accessible savings, most people report a measurable shift in daily anxiety around money. Call it 20,000 for round numbers. It's not enough to retire on, not enough to impress anyone, not enough to make the news. But it's enough to stop your amygdala from treating a flat tire like a 5-alarm fire. Let's figure out why, what it actually takes to get there, and what to do once you do. There's a concept behavioral economists call the scarcity tax, and it's not about what things cost. It's about what scarcity costs you in decision quality. Princeton researchers Sendhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir ran a study showing that financial scarcity acts like a cognitive load, similar to losing a full night's sleep or dropping IQ points on a test, not because poor people think worse. Because a brain juggling "can I cover rent" has less bandwidth left over for "should I take this promotion" or "is this the right apartment?" Picture a laptop with 40 browser tabs open. It's not broken, it's just slow because every bit of processing power is split thin. That's what decision-making under financial pressure feels like. You're not less capable, you're running on 4% battery permanently. The emergency cushion doesn't just sit in a savings account collecting interest, it closes browser tabs. Let me make this less abstract with two people who actually exist in some version in every city. Call the first one Maria. She's a nurse, makes decent money, but every month is a scramble because there's nothing behind her. When her transmission started making a noise, she didn't get it checked. She kept driving on it, hoping, because a repair bill meant a missed rent payment. 3 weeks later, it failed completely on the highway. The repair that would have cost $400 early became a $2,200 replacement, plus 2 missed shifts because she had no car to get to work. That's not bad luck, that's what zero cushion does to ordinary problems. It turns them into compounding disasters. Now picture Daniel, same income, same city, but he'd been quietly stacking away $400 a month for a few years. When his water heater died on a Sunday night, he didn't panic. He called a plumber Monday morning, paid the bill from savings, and moved on with his week. He probably didn't even think about it twice. That's the entire difference this video is about. Not intelligence, not income, just whether there's a buffer between you and the next thing that goes wrong. Vanguard's own research on emergency savings found something worth sitting with. People with even a modest buffer, a couple $1,000s, reported meaningfully higher financial well-being than people with zero. Not because $2,000 solves anything, because it's the difference between I have no options and I have one option. Push that cushion out to cover 3 to 6 months of real expenses, and the gains keep compounding psychologically, not just mathematically. For a lot of households, that lands somewhere in the $15,000 to $25,000 range. That's the origin of the number. It's not magic. It's just roughly where I could survive a real disruption starts to be true for an average cost of living. Worth being honest here, this isn't a universal law of finance. If your monthly expenses are $2,000, your number is smaller. If they're $8,000, it's bigger. The dollar figure is downstream of your life, not a threshold handed down from economics textbooks. Here's where it gets genuinely interesting and where a lot of people's intuition breaks. Say you're saving $1,000 a month, investing it at a long-run average return. Getting your first meaningful cushion together takes real time, over a year of consistent, occasionally miserable discipline. But your money doesn't know it's tired. Once there's a base sitting in the market, that base is earning too, quietly in the background, without asking your permission or checking your motivation levels. Your next chunk of savings arrives faster, not because you're saving more. Because you've got a second employee now and that employee works weekends. Think of it less like climbing a hill and more like recruiting a team. For a long time, it's just you doing all the labor. Then at some point, your money starts pulling shifts alongside you. It's clumsy and slow at first, a few dollars a month in reinvested growth, but headcount grows. Eventually, your invested money is doing more of the lifting than your paycheck is, and you didn't have to work any harder to get there. You just had to not quit before the second hire showed up. Now let's get practical, because motivation without a mechanism is just a nice feeling that fades by Thursday. The single biggest lie people tell themselves is that they'll save whatever's left over at the end of the month. There's never anything left over at the end of the month. That's not an accident. That's how spending naturally expands to fill whatever's available. The fix is boring, but it works. The moment income arrives, a fixed chunk moves automatically into a separate account before you ever see it as spendable money. Not what feels comfortable. What's slightly uncomfortable because comfortable never builds anything. Even $150 a week, moved automatically and never manually decided on, adds up to nearly $8,000 in a single year before any investment growth is added on top. The second practical piece is picking one lever and pulling it hard instead of nibbling at 20 small ones. For most people, that lever is housing because it's the largest recurring expense by far. A roommate for a year, a slightly smaller apartment, negotiating a renewal instead of auto-accepting the increase. These single decisions can free up more money in a month than a year of skipping coffee ever could. This isn't about suffering. It's about picking your one uncomfortable trade instead of scattering discomfort across every purchase you make and burning out on all of it within 3 weeks. Now the objections, because I already know what's in the comments. This doesn't account for inflation. True, and it doesn't need to because the psychological shift isn't about a fixed dollar figure staying magic forever. It's about the ratio between your buffer and your monthly cost of living. Inflation raises both sides of that equation at once. I don't make enough to save $400 a month. Also fair, and the honest answer is the amount matters less than the automation. $25 a week that never touches your checking account will still get you somewhere in 3 years. Slow progress with a system beats fast progress with willpower because willpower runs out and systems don't. Rent alone eats my entire paycheck. That's a real structural problem, and no amount of budgeting advice fixes a genuine income shortfall that requires either negotiating income up or restructuring housing, not skipping lattes. Here's a mistake I see constantly once people do cross this line, and it's almost the opposite of what people expect. Broke people optimize small purchases obsessively, generic versus name brand, whether to skip the coffee, whether $6 for parking is worth it. It makes sense when every dollar is precious, every dollar gets interrogated. But once there's real breathing room, the smart move isn't to relax that scrutiny across the board, it's to redirect it. Stop micromanaging the $4 items. Start interrogating the $400 a month items. The car payment, the apartment upgrade, the subscription creep. Those are the ones that actually move your net worth. The latte was never the problem. The car nobody needed was. There's a quieter trap hiding in this stage too. Hit the cushion, feel the relief, and immediately spend it. A new car because I've earned it. A vacation to celebrate. The cushion isn't a trophy. It's a tool. Spending it defeats the entire purpose of building it. There's a specific kind of leverage that only shows up once you're not financially trapped in your job. Call it walking around power. Not "I quit today" money necessarily. Just enough that a bad boss, a toxic team, or an unreasonable demand stops feeling like a threat to your survival. The strange part, most people who have this leverage never actually use it. They don't need to. It changes how they negotiate, how they push back, how they show up in meetings, because the fear underneath every interaction is gone. And ironically, that confidence tends to get rewarded with the exact things scarcity mode people are desperately chasing. Raises, better assignments, respect. Think about Daniel again from earlier. He wasn't smarter than Maria, and he wasn't paid more. He was just operating from a different starting position every single day, and that position shaped 1,000 small decisions neither of them was consciously aware of making. None of this makes you rich. $20,000 or whatever your real number turns out to be won't buy financial independence. It buys something quieter, the difference between reacting to your life and actually choosing it. The car noise still happens either way. The water heater still dies on a Sunday night either way. The question is just whether it ruins your week or whether you barely remember it a month later.